I hope you were having a great week. As promised, I wanted to talk a little bit about your final project. You were introduced to this with a posting in week 1 and also in the syllabus, but now that we are almost to our 4th week or halfway through the class, I just wanted to take a little bit of time and make sure that you have all been working on your final project, and also to get into a little bit about where you're going to be creating your final project as. So let's just go over the basics. Your final project is going to involve economics news project. So what this means is you're going to be researching and finding a current event article on the economic events that are taking place in the US and globally. Your research will focus on topics that we cover for each specific week. So whatever topics we have covered, you will find a current event based on those topics. So by Saturday, you should already have found 3 current events for your final project. Once you have found your current event article for the week, you'll prepare a 1-page summary of the article. Now, the key part of this is to make sure that you are keeping all of the summaries, because when we talk about part 2 here in a minute, you're going to be submitting all of them together. I've also included in the syllabus and in the instructions some websites that are a great place to go to find your current event articles. So you can certainly use these websites or other economic news websites as well. So specifically, in order to complete part one, you're first going to locate a news article story on a topic that we have covered for a particular week. So for example, during week 3, we've talked about elasticity, and you could talk about the reservation price and substitute products. Those would be examples of topics that you could find for current events for this week. So once you have found the current event that you want to use, you're going to read through the article and understand the issues that are being addressed. So what is being said? How does it relate to the content that you have learned for this week? Step 3, then, you're going to complete a 1-page summary of the article and how the content directly relates to the topics discussed for the respective week. So to kind of guide you, I have 5 areas that you can consider for your summary. First, the source of the information. Where did it come from? Who is the author? What is the name of the source or the publication, etc. Secondly, what is the theme of the article? You're going to identify the weekly course topic that is covered in the article. So for example, I mentioned in week 3, one of the topics we covered was elasticity. So that could be the topic that is being covered from the article. Step 3 then in the summary is to state where the article took place. Is it in the US? Is it abroad? What country is the article based upon? Number 4, you're going to summarize the article to include the who, what, where, when, and why, and how of the article. So that's kind of the meat of what the article was about and why we should care about this current event. Finally, you're going to provide your own thoughts on the article's major issues. Consider why Americans should care about this topic and how the topic directly relates to the weekly topics that we have covered in the course. So that's just a little bit of a guidance to help you to know how to complete the actual summaries. So by the time you get done with the class, you will have 8 of these current event summaries. So the good news is if you have not started or if you have forgotten about this, you can go back and still find a current events article for the weeks that we have already passed. However, I would highly suggest not waiting until the last day to start doing this. So make sure that you are doing this weekly. It's going to make it a lot more easy to remember what the topics that we covered, and also how the current events are going to relate to the specific topics that we have covered each of the different weeks. And then that brings us to part 2. And we're going to actually review what this digital timeline actually looks like today. But for part 2, you're going to create an interactive digital timeline using a website called Tutori. This is a free website that allows you to create digital presentations and timelines. This website program will help you to make connections of all of your current events to the content that we have covered in the course. You will share your timeline with me prior to the final day of the course, which is Friday of week 8. So your timeline is going to consist of 3 different sections. First, section 1, an introduction to the assignment. So you're going to put the purpose of the assignment, the requirements for the assignment, and the news sources and other materials that you have used. So you could just put a brief overview of where you found most of your current event assignments, why you have been working on this assignment, and what you were required to do. Secondly, you're going to provide an overview of the big news stories of the course that you have collected. For example, were there any major themes or common characteristics throughout the 8 weeks? What were the top 3 big news stories that you used in your project? Why were they the top 3 and why were they so important? And how did the current event stories impact the US and world in terms of economics? In section 3, then, you're going to draw conclusions. You're going to explain how you would sum up the news from the past 8 weeks. Was it positive, negative, etc., and explain why you think so. Secondly, do you think the current events were biased or unbiased, and explain why you think so. Thirdly, what trends in the study of economics did you find? Make sure to put an emphasis on the topics we have studied in the course. Fourth, what connections did you specifically make from the current events to the topics covered in the course? And explain how this project helps you learn about economics while using current events in the world. So this is going to be part 2. So the most important part that you should be working and have been working on right now is part 1 and just collecting all of your current events per week, 1 per week. However, you can begin to start putting your digital timeline together with Satori. When I send out this video link, I'm going to send you out a code, because when you sign up, you're going to use a specific code, which is U60HT, which I'll be sending to you as well. That will then allow me access to your timelines. So I'm going to stop sharing this document and then go to the website so you can see what Satori looks like. This will look a little bit different because this is the instructor view that I am seeing here. But what this is basically a collection of all of your stories that you have together. So you can create a new collection. So if we create a new collection, we will just title this Economics Current Events. And that'll be the name of our collection. Then you're going to create your first story. So a great way to do this, to kind of keep everything together, would be to put all of your summaries and the key information right into your story. So since we have a free account, you just have to click on the blank to create your own. So we can insert the title. So we'll just say that we have our week 1 current event. And you can be more creative than I'm being. I'm just trying to show you briefly how you do this. So write a short introduction to your story. This could be a summary of what your current event was about. So we could say the current event was in regards to supply and demand and took place in the US. Obviously yours is going to be a lot more than this, but this is just an example of what you could do. Then you can begin to add some different headings. So you could put key points. Under the key points, you're going to be able to add either text or images, since we have a free account. So if we do a text, we could put key point number 1. Demand is based on what the consumers want to buy. And then we just click on the comment button. And then now our first comment is here. And we can add as many comments or images that we want to. So you could go through your summary and you could put all of your summary items under the key points. And then that would be your first current event or your first story in your timeline. So if we go back to the beginning and you can see your stories, now we can see under our collection of our economics current events, we have our first story. So if you were to begin your second current event for the second week, you're going to do the exact same thing, week 2 current event. and then you'll go through and you'll do everything that we just did before. So that would be the first part of putting all of your different presentations together. Now, the great thing about this is once you have everything together, you can then begin to create your timeline. So if we create another collection and we can put final project. So you can write a little bit of introduction of what your final project is, etc. And I must not have hit, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we have our collection of our final project. So under the final project, you could then go back to the syllabus and put section 1. So under section 1, the first requirement was to put the requirements of the assignment. So assignment requirements. And then you could begin to use different comments and put in whatever the assignment requirements were. So read and summarize 8 current events. And then you could just keep going on to the different areas here. So if we go back to stories, you click on final project, we now have our first section. And then you can continue to do this for this collection, and you can then continue to add more and more stories to your final project. So this is a great way to store all of your current events, and then when you get to the point where you are creating the final project, you can go back, they're already right there. You can then remember what all of your current events were about, and then create your top 3, and then go through the checklist of everything that you were supposed to explain. When you sign in for tutorial, you're actually going to get an actual resource that is going to help you as well. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here quick. Yeah, this is just going to be my resources. So as I mentioned, you're just going to go up to this website and I'll have all of this information for you. But once you log in, there's going to be a video tutorial that will also take you through how to put all of your stories together and how to create your timeline as well. So you can use my video, or obviously their video is going to be a lot better because they have created it. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be doing for the final project. If you do have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Have a great weekend.